Anyhow, want to introduce yourselves?
Uh, Tiny Gray Garcia, true story of the life of Tiny and her mama Dee, and let Tiny take it from there.
Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar, that houseless mama, that houseless daughter, all those people you don't want to see, never want to be, look away from me, what you want to do, arrest me, LA, we're in your city. I write my jailhouse attire, not because orange is the new black, any crack, Hollywood will sell you that. It's because me and my poor mama did jail time for the poverty crime of being houseless in this occupied indigenous house.
Can everyone in the back hear us? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So that's me. I'm thankful to the film festival for choosing the film, so that the concept and the ideas of houseless people, and specifically poor women and children,
And you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Peter Mankini. I'm a filmmaker. I've often been embedded with activists while they're risking arrest. So we all risk arrest together during a lockdown. During Occupy, we were surrounded by cops a lot. But yeah, it was really an honor to make this. It was really great that Tiny had written this children's book, this beautiful children's book with illustrations by Agent Robles. And so just seemed like really absolutely was screaming to be made into a movie so that people could find out about Tiny and Dee and all the beautiful things they started doing and that Tiny continues to do. So hopefulness is a poor people led solution, as everything in Tiny does, and it's just really beautiful to watch poor people coming together, unhoused people coming together, and building their own homes, and working really hard. And it's always inspirational for me, and we're really honored to be here. And I just had a great time last night, and the gentleman in the movie who lost his son, his acting was just amazing. I just wanted to make sure he got some kind of Academy Award or something, because I couldn't take my eyes off it.
He will, yeah. Well, in the next Q&A, we'll talk about
Okay.
the wonderful. I want to focus on the wonderfulness of your film because I want to commend you both. I mean, the story, the writing, the poetry of it is just beautiful, and the filmmaking is just beautiful. I think was it all his illustrations from the book, or was some made originally for this?
Well, one thing I really like about the film is that the DCP was the most expensive part of it because I had a student copy of After Effects and a student copy of Photoshop, and I just took the beautiful artwork by Asia Robles and separated the foreground and the background and animated it.
Yeah, that was a beautiful way. Not to sorry,
No,
but wasn't it just a beautiful way to take a still image and just breathe sort of a three-dimensional life into it?
And keep it simple as a children's book so that it didn't kind of crowd it by, CGIing it to death or whatever, right? So it's
it's exactly as it should be.
yeah. So it made Tiny's heart of the story into the Momatee's heart of the story the central part instead of being kind of.
Yeah, and the story is just amazing, and I'm sure it resonated with everyone.
Well, I don't know if it did. We're in Los Angeles, which has 4148 on the books. It makes it illegal to sit, stand, live, walk while being houseless. I don't know so much about Glendale, but I know that there's a lot of police activity. There's not the ability to be homeless in public. It's very important to name homefulness because we're building that solution, as Peter said. That's a huge idea. It's the idea that not only can we have solutions as poor folks about our own problems, but we teach folks with different forms of race and class privilege about radical redistribution. We've actually built 14 units of housing. Where there's folks in LA are inviting us in to do the same thing down here. What it would take is somebody with resources radically redistributing enough so that we could get some land. We don't squat land, we don't rent, none of that, because the minute that you do that, this system is set up to support and protect private property ownership. So it's a different idea. It's powerful. It's healing. It's not just a roof. When me and Mom were on the street, there was multiple agencies that we were engaged with. That's a true story, and that was in Los Angeles. That's where I was born and raised. That was East Hollywood, Compton, City of Industry, and then the Valley, actually. But anyway, the point is that in all of those engagements, for instance, with social workers, I call them anti-social workers, there was never an attempt to actually listen to ideas that we have. There was never an attempt to work with the family in the solutions that we had created, but rather to criminalize poor families. So in Los Angeles alone, there's one of the worst homeless populations. I know that the new mayor is trying to open motels, and I think that's great. I also know though that the criminalization keeps rising. So it's a crisis in every city in the US. Hope that this movie gets out to more people, and our next project is we're doing it as a play, and we're turning that into a movie as well.
Yeah, one of the reasons I supported our mayor is she talked about housing first
Thank
when she was running. Not aware it's been followed through on very much. But
Unfortunately,
housing first obviously makes sense.
politics.
Follow tricksters.
If we open up, anyone want to just shout out a question about filmmaking or a tiny story? Gotta be a question, yeah. I could ask, from the time you first saw the book to, did you immediately want to adapt it to film?
Absolutely.
And how did you have to master Photoshop and all that, or was it a quick process for you?
Yeah, so I usually work with DaVinci Resolve, and I have a degree in 16 millimeter film production from the late 1980s, because I'm old. And then I went back to school to study digital, and then I took an online color grading class, and then I just kept working and learning. But I took a beginning Photoshop class a long time ago, and so I just had to teach myself everything. I also did take Introduction to After Effects, but then I had to just teach myself everything, and so I said, Tiny, this would be really simple to make. Of course, famous last words, and I had a lot to learn, but obviously it was worth it, and really my only other comment is just that I hope people will ask Tiny about Hopefulness, because I do believe it is an amazingly transformative idea. Like, I even call it a revolutionary idea, and that's kind of true, but I just love that it's transformative, and that it's a real poor people led solution. That's really it. It does not come down from above. There's no white savior who waved a magic wand. It's the opposite, and just to watch the work they do is just so inspiring, and this could really, I have no idea how many lives have been saved by Tiny's efforts and More Magazine's efforts and Hopefulness efforts, but I believe it's a number greater than zero. I believe that people are alive today and thriving today and feel good about themselves today because they heard the message when they were feeling terrible about themselves, when they believed the messages they got from the dominant culture that there was something wrong with them, and that that it's their fault, and that they're on a downward spiral, and there's nothing to do to save them unless they somehow make it in the kind of dominant culture. And instead, it comes not only from the ground up, kind of spiritually and philosophically, but it comes historically, because Tiny always brings in the indigenous folks, the original people of the land, the First Nations people, and asks permission, and then asks for a blessing. And so it's all about respect in the most fundamental way, and then building on that. And it's all about love in the most fundamental way, and then letting that love rise up through work. And so a lot of what I love about my work, since you want me to keep talking about me, is that I just get to meet all these amazing, inspiring people, and they just get in the way of my camera. So a lot of times the best thing you can say about me is I was right there and pointed the camera at the right people who were doing this stunning work that people should, I really hope, will take in and say, wait a minute, I haven't seen this before. And all these people who felt powerless before see, I was almost said feel powerful now, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is they were inspired to find the power in themselves, and the real power that they already had came up and rose up because of the work of all the people that Tiny works with. And Tiny is key to that, but there's all these other really beautiful people there in this effort who do this work.
And locally, shout out to We the Unhoused, Theo Henderson, Etna Solidarity Street News, to the Tonga Conservancy that's happening now. They just got an acre of their land back. And we just did a stolen land tour in so-called Beverly Hills. Again, spreading the medicine of radical redistribution and community reparations. LA has tons of money, and there's so much hoarding in this town, it's not even funny. And to release these lies we've been taught by a capitalist system that and the sign of success is to hoard all kinds of things, all kinds of occupy Mama Earth, is, just perpetuating that lie. We're in a different time. Mama Earth is under attack. We're losing her land mass. Waters are poisoned. We have to radically share. This is not the time to continue that capitalist system. Mama Earth is not for sale. She has never been. And we need to also listen and follow the teachings of our First Nations relatives. Shout out to Karina Gold and Fui and all the relatives up in the Bay Area in the Ohlone Lishan Nation, but as well the Tonga Nation down here. And really, let's start doing things in a different way. That's what this is about. Shout out to Asian Robles as a poverty scholar. He's an amazing artist. He's also a person who's never been formally trained and has a beautiful daughter, and is just supported our magazine along with so many other artists like Peter, so that we could even be here.
And again, Asian Robles is the illustrator. I simply animated his work, but the work was already there. I drew nothing, in case that's a question.
And we have some hands.
Yay.
Oh. Oh, I was just gonna ask, where is the book? Is it in bookstores? Is it online? Where can you?
Yeah, and you can actually, poorpress.net, and there's actually several children's books as well. Shout out to Angel Heart and Mama Edric Candy Corn and other poverty scholars, we call ourselves, poor folks who've survived by any means necessary. And we create books, we help other poor folks create their own books. But this book is available on poorpress.net. Thanks for asking. And poormagazine.org, you can check us out as well.
Poormagazine.org, you can also hear their radio show. And there's a really good YouTube channel that they have. And also another amazing book that I've given as presents to people that's also at poorpress.net is Mundiado Silencios, beautiful book of artwork.
Chimali.
And it's, I've given it to a few different people. And it's just gorgeous to look at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was there another hand?
Yes. Here. Hi. First of all, congratulations on the film, and can you hear me?
Just a little bit higher, please.
Okay. First of all, congratulations on the film, and thank you for taking such an important topic and putting it out there for us. And I was gonna ask you about your artistic decision of separating the background. Was that your original idea, or did you brainstorm other ideas and came up with this at the end, or how did it came up to you, the idea of separating the background and giving us this sensation of motion?
Instantaneous.
I'm sorry?
I just, I have wanted to make sure that more people learn about Tiny's amazing work. And so for years I've been saying silly things like, it has to be a movie made, but I shouldn't make it. It should really come from inside. And so it's just there's just no way. They're so busy. They're so busy doing amazing good work. And so there's no way. And I was very frustrated because I just wanted something to happen that spread the word, spread this good news. And then I just saw the children's book and I just went, whoa, wait a minute. And in a flash, the whole thing came and I just really, it was just like, oh, what's your favorite piece of music? I'll use it without lyrics. And instantaneously, again, Tiny answered, Gracias a la vida by Violeta Parra. And then my friend Lottie just watched the movie 50 times, doing variations on it, so that became a real score rather than just putting the track down. And then we went into the recording studio, and Lottie just watched the film and played along. And really, the only decision making was nylon strings or steel strings. And if you watch the film again sometime, you'll notice that a little more than half, the first half of the movie is Lottie's playing with nylon strings, and then to bring a different feel in, we switched to steel strings on her guitar as we're rushing towards the climax. So it was all pretty much instantaneous because it was also beautiful and it was also there and it was also obvious what to do. And all the, I didn't have to invent the most beautiful parts. They were already there in the book,
Thank you.
Yeah, and the books are beautiful, and it's such a brilliant idea to make a children's book about when we lived outside, because that's the right audience to broach this topic.
Right, well, and thank you for saying that. I mean, one of the pieces about that is that I wanted to introduce a different protagonist in children's literature. Unfortunately, the perpetuation of the shame on poverty happens oftentimes and starts with children. Over 52% of the children in LAUSD are houseless or housing insecure. And yet, when you're in school as a young person, you front like you have a house because you get made fun of, because other parents have already instilled the shame of poverty in you, and or parents or teachers just act like there's no problem and ignore it. There is a serious problem, and children who are natural empaths overstand that, and they see what's in their environment as opposed to adults who put up all these filters. And actually, instead of looking away, or I call it the violent act of looking away, the idea of this book is actually to help parents and educators talk about the real story of what's going on, bring the children's heart into the conversation, whether they be a person themselves who's struggling with that, or whether they just witness it. And actually what it really causes is empathy in children, who they already have it anyway. And it encourages that love. It encourages that connection. We are not separate from each other. Just because I have a roof, it doesn't mean that I'm any different. Just because we're outside, yeah, we deal with issues, just like people are housed. Substance use. We deal with mental illness. We deal with trauma. Well, people who are housed deal with those things. And the only difference is that we have the people who are housed actually have the privilege of privacy versus those of us who are unhoused who have what I call the violence of exposure. It's a really important thing to recognize because it takes these binaries away. No, we're not the homeless people. We're not those bums. We're not those people. We're human beings just like you. And so it's amazing and powerful to share that medicine with children. I encourage all educators and teachers and mamas and papas, and uncles and aunties to get the book. Use it as a teaching tool, and it's bilingual. And we do that. We have our own school. We have a liberation school that's designed after the Black Panther liberation schools in Homefulness, and we use the book. But I also go into schools and teach on it and do presentations, which is the other thing that this beautiful movie allows.
Yeah, I think just to remind everyone what they've already read in the papers is that we're getting poorer with every generation now. And, you know, in the 1960s, you could have, a nuclear family with one parent working and everything was fine. Very much not so now. And most people now are one medical emergency or 2 paychecks away from being unhoused. I was unhoused for a while. I was lucky enough to be couch surfing. And on the last night of the last couch, I was going to the next night be spending it in my friend's broken down van and just sleeping in there. And I managed to find housing in most improbable. It was a blessing from someone in the universe, because just improbable in the middle of an expensive San Francisco neighborhood, I found affordable housing. And, there's no reason I should have. It just doesn't. It almost doesn't make any sense that I did, but it was a good thing because it allowed me to not have to sell my gear. I sold my entire record collection. I had the first pressing of Black Flag's first single and got like $2,500 for it. And so I was able to survive and couch surf for a while with that. But I just think that the book, and I hope we brought it to the film too, is so beautiful because it does teach children, look, there's an unhoused young child. And so if this happens to you, you can still feel strong and whole. And, or if it happens to someone, you don't have to look down on them. You learn a little empathy from them if it's something like that. Because I agree with Tiny that children are naturally empathetic, and we sadly do a lot of stifling of that, unintentionally, of course, but we do a lot of stifling of that in our culture. And I do expect that things will get tough. So for instance, I don't eat meat, but I never lecture anyone to stop eating meat. I just tell people, well, keep enjoying it, because as the climate changes, it'll soon be so expensive that only the rich will be able to afford meat. And when I look in the future, I see that, and I see housing being more of a challenge for everyone. And so I have a lot of friends who are fighting the bad things about the system, fighting oppression, but also remember there are the beautiful people who are building a loving replacement system. And it's kind of a cliche that people like hear, oh, loving system, and joke like that's just silly and stupid and it's a hippy dippy thing. No, I mean, no, I've watched, I've seen it working. And again, every once in a while there's a comment in one of the movies from a troll that says, oh, these poor people are all lazy. And I always reply with, you did not watch the film. Because if you had, you would have seen these people working hella hard, and they do. They all work hella hard. And you all know, you filmmakers know, that filmmaking is a lot of work. That it's basically 50,000 tiny little things you do just to make your short film whole and complete and working. And that's just another reason why I appreciate being around the filmmakers and seeing so many great films. You guys chose some great films. It's really, I was very inspired by everything. And every day I'm inspired. So I really do encourage people to go to forpress.net. And of course, any book or piece of clothing you buy there will help support them. There's hoodies and t-shirts. And also go to poormagazine.org and listen to Poor People News Network, PNN. And you can people talking and doing beautiful ways to rise up. You know, rise up isn't always Lisa Simpson being dour and saying, you must do this. Rising up is also celebrating life and bringing families together and finding joy in the work, finding fulfillment in a way that I've never found such fulfillment before. I come from a very bad family. It's true, but still, I haven't seen, you know, that word community is used all the time. And in so many spaces, I don't see a real functioning community, but I do find functioning communities here where people are actually like, I'm not going to romanticize it, you know, there are arguments and stuff, and there are discussions, but there's real love and caring and the joy of working together that I've seen. That is not trivial. That is not something to just kind of gloss over. That is something really powerful. And when you're having one of those nights where you're feeling really lonely, where you're feeling maybe even let down by people you care about, if you tune into this and you just watch what they're doing, you just see love as a verb. It is not passive. It is love as a real dynamic action interaction.
Thank you for a wonderful film. It was an honor to get to show it. First time I saw it, I knew the whole selection jury was going to give it great ratings. We'd have it on the big screen. So
Thank you.
it's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.